Ever wondered what it takes to compete at the Masters Weightlifting World Championships? In episode 55 of the Last Set Best Set podcast, we break down exactly how we're preparing two of our athletes, including our approach to programming, technique, and attempt selection. So if you're a Masters weightlifter and you're curious about what our training actually looks like, then make sure to subscribe. Welcome back to the Last Set Best Set podcast. I'm Coach Brian. I'm the owner of Big Ben Strength, and I've been teaching Olympic lifting for the last 11 years now.
And I'm Coach Calvin. I'm current captain of Lindenwood University's Olympic weightlifting program, as well as a coach through Big Ben Strength.
And today we're going to be talking about something that I don't think I've seen anybody else really talk about. And we want to give you guys a little bit of an inside look into how we're training our athletes going into the Masters World Championships. So Team Big Ben, we've got 3 athletes going to Masters Worlds. We're going to cover what we're doing with 2 of those. We're going to talk about our athletes. I coach an athlete named Eunice, and then you coach an athlete named Skylar. And so we're gonna dive into kind of what we're doing with our training here, and hopefully this will be helpful for anybody who is maybe a Masters athlete or a coach who works with Masters athletes and get some good insight. What you're gonna find, it's not all that different from coaching regular weightlifters with some small changes, you know. So let's go ahead and get into it. What have you guys been working on with Skylar?
Yeah, so this was actually kind of fun how me and Skylar got started working together, because she had been on sort of our team programs for a little bit. You were kind of working with her on there, and she's from the area in Tallahassee where you're at. And so she came to our Big Ben Strength summer camp, and I was like, "Oh, how old are you?" And she's like 30, and I'm like, "Oh, are you doing the Masters stuff? At AO Finals at the end of this year?" She's like, "Oh, no, I'm not a Master. I'm not 35 yet." And I'm like, well, actually, there's this new Masters Federation that is hosting a World Championships, and it starts at 30 instead of 35. And she's like, what? And so we kind of got this on her radar, and so we've been working together since August with programming and coaching to kind of get her ready for this. And honestly, it's been going really, really well. She's a great athlete to work with, and kind of what we've been doing. I'll cover a bit of programming first. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I've been playing around with a new style. And so, Skylar, if you're listening to this, you have been a bit of a guinea pig. So I've been doing a volume build. So most programs, they start out with volume at its very highest in week 1 of the program, and then taper off from there while intensity goes up throughout the program. And this kind of happens across every lift that you're doing. Probably even your accessories that you're doing as well. And so, what that might look like, I'll reference maybe a volume program that Skylar actually did on one of the OlyStrong team programs, which was sort of loosely based on one that I use. It starts with 5x10, goes to 4x10, then 3x10, then 2x10, and the weights go 55%, 60, 65, and then finally 70%. And so she had done that kind of program. And I'm like, you know what? I think she needs a little more. We're really trying to do well at this comp. She's got maybe some life changes coming after the comp that, this one means a lot to her. And so I wanted to take a different style. So I started with an appropriate, number of reps for maybe the beginning of a, more volume-based strength program. So it started with 6x5. And that's a pretty big rep range. It was only at 65%, so pretty light. But instead of tapering down and bringing up the weight, I kept the weight the same and brought up the sets each week. So we went 6x5 week 1, 7x5 week 2, 8x5 week 3, and 9x5 on week 4. So that's a lot of sets, 9x5. Try it out sometime if you don't believe me, and you will be dying.
I don't know who would hear 9x5 and be like, yeah, that's nothing.
And so I kind of had a plan for her because I knew that I was trying out something new. I wanted to, be ready if this was maybe too much for her. She was also a newer athlete to me. I hadn't coached her before. And so I could tell she was very communicative. Mm. And so I came up with 3 separate plans for our, peak into Masters Worlds based on how many weeks she made it through this high volume program. If she could keep adding on more, we would go all the way to that 4th week that I talked about. But if she was dying after week 2, after doing 7x5, which is, again, a lot of reps still, Then we would move on from there. Okay, we got through week 2. Let's go into week 3. Week 3, she's doing well. Um, we finally get through to make it to week 4, but I'll kind of talk about how we measured that. Like, what was she doing well on? What was I looking for to know if she needed to move on to taper volume down? So the biggest things are how her lifts were doing. That's a huge one. Looking at Olympic lifts and their percentages, how are similar percentages moving? Does 80% or 70% now feel like so heavy? Like it feels like a mountain. It's moving slow. You don't have that snap. We're kind of looking for that. Are squats moving really slow? We have a lot of sets, but how fast are they moving? Is this moving like 65% should? An RPE top set at the end of the week on squats. So we would do a top set and then our regular back off sets that were similar percentages. But that RPE based top set, forced her to, take a look inside and be like, how am I really feeling? How many reps in the tank do I have? And that kind of gave us an idea. If we saw that RPE 7 top set of 5 tank down, we would have known that she was struggling and needed to move on to the next phase of the program and cut volume. And then also just psychological fatigue. If she was telling me, hey, like this training's beating me down really bad, I don't want to be in the gym, that's a huge factor to consider as well. But she's a trooper, and she made it through all 4 weeks, all the way through 9x5. And what's interesting is I didn't use the same kind of volume build with the Olympic lifts in that program.
Mm-hmm.
So I separated out clean and jerk, and so we had 3 main days: snatch, clean, jerk, and then a 4th day that had some complex, some no feet, no hook snatches, and push presses. But we had those 3 main days, and each of them had EMOM lifts, so every minute on the minute. And we started with the highest volume and tapered down while intensity came up, kind of like a regular program. So you can notice like all the lines that, if you graphed it out, what this program looks like are kind of going all over the place, but it ends up being a little more balanced that way. That way, we're not throwing the highest volume phase of everything at an athlete at once, or the highest intensities in everything at once. We can kind of ebb and flow a little bit with when certain parts of the program are being higher intensity and when others are, being higher volume, perhaps. So this is something I'm playing around with. It's not an exact science. It's not something I've done with a ton of other athletes, but it's something that I'm really curious to keep implementing because I think we've seen some really good results, not only in Skylar's Olympic lifts, but also her strength lifts. So I'm excited to see kind of what big strength lifts she hits at the end of the cycle, but also how we can build upon that with Olympic lifts going into the comp. But yeah, basically, by the time December comes around, I think we're going to be super prepared. I also forgot to mention accessories kind of followed similar style to squats. They started at 3 sets, and then by week 4 they were at 5 sets. So they built in volume throughout the program too. But yeah, do you got any questions about that, Brian? Do you think I got over it?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty interesting. I think with the strength stuff, we actually did that with our high school team, like almost the exact same thing. We swapped the reps. We actually inverted the rep scheme. So we started with 3 sets of 10 on our strength exercises, and then we added a set every week, and it was just keep the weight the same or heavier if you felt good, like if you weren't really beat up from the previous session. And we did that with basically our accessories as well, and we didn't do any Olympic lifts in our preseason stuff. So that's kind of interesting it's actually, I found the same thing to be very helpful. I'm curious to know, was this based on kind of what we talked about with Max Ada on that episode?
Yeah, definitely the like squat at the end of the RPE based squat at the end of the week to kind of track, like, I guess athlete readiness is kind of a
Yeah.
way you could do that.
Interesting.
That part was definitely influenced by him. I really got a lot out of talking to him. So make sure you guys go listen to that episode where we talked with Max Ada, because he
Yeah,
made
for
me
sure.
think pretty hard about the different approaches you could take in a program.
Yeah, I definitely took that volume approach that he talked about with like with a volume cycle, trying to add volume across the cycle instead of decreasing that. That was a new approach, and so I tested that out with getting back into training. It was really helpful for us, and now we're in that opposite end where we're adding volume over time too. With the splitting up the snatch, the clean, and the jerk, we talked about what you were doing on your lighter days, you're doing on the minute based, light kind of lighter stuff there. What were you doing on the heavier on the 3 high days, essentially the snatch, the
Oh,
clean, and the jerk?
the 3 high days are the EMOM work. So those three
Oh,
high days
okay.
are the 10 by 2 is what it started out with. 10 by 2 EMOM, 65%. Week 2, 9 by 2, 70%. Week 3, 8 by 2, 75%. Week 4, 7 by 2, 80%. So
Gotcha.
those were the main days, and that was the progression on each snatch, clean, and then jerk all separately.
Yeah.
Whereas the push press and the no foot, no hook snatches on a different day had
Yeah.
like a range. I believe it was a 10% range. So it
Hmm.
might have started with like no foot, no hook triples,
Yeah.
60 to 70%. Then it went up 65 to 75%,
Yeah.
and so on throughout those 4 weeks. Um, but
And
yeah,
and and watching her lifts, like 'cause she'll come in and train at the tail end of our like club practice, as
yeah,
well a lot of the times, and just even seeing how she snatches like 140, like 140 pounds, so like 65 kilos.
mm,
Seeing how she's doing that now for like no feet snatches and like variations and just a lot of reps, where before that would have been like kind of a heavier day in the week for her. She's made a lot of progress pretty quick on that. Like she's definitely, I think this volume approach is really working well for her.
yeah. Some people just respond really well to it. I know if I was on this program,
Yeah.
I'd be a little more cooked
Yeah,
than
for sure.
she is right now. So she's handling it super well. She's handling the stressors of life like no other. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then with Eunice, who you're coaching mainly, to tell us a little bit about like what you're doing with her programming, with her coaching.
Quick interruption of the video to announce our newest project, the Competition Strong Team on Train Heroic. If you're an intermediate lifter competing or planning to compete on the national circuit, this is the program for you. You'll get access to proven programming, daily video review, and coach messaging for $39 a month. Just click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen for a free week trial today. All right, back to the video. Yeah, I mean, with Eunice, she's the coach, or she's the athlete I've worked with the longest. So she's actually been with me since like I owned my gym. She's been around for a long time. So it's a little bit harder for me to kind of mentally separate out like distinct phases because it really kind of bleeds into each other after a little while. And I'll say like I'm gonna be maybe sometimes a little vague with what we're doing, just because she's got a pretty good chance at definitely getting on the podium, if not if not maybe winning the whole thing. So don't necessarily want to give too much away to our competitors if they are listening. Hello. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So we spent this last training cycle. This is the longest time that we've ever had without major competition in between. So we wanted to take this time to really do a different approach. We did a high volume training cycle leading up to it after her last meet. And I think that was really useful because this year we decided to switch to the squat jerk, which is not a decision that I recommend pretty much anybody make. This is a very hard decision. I was pretty anti doing this. And then she sent me a video of her doing a squat jerk at like 90% of her best split jerk on like the first try that she'd ever done squat jerks. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something there. And then you look at her, she's built for squatting, like she's super short, super compact, which you probably shouldn't probably shouldn't tell somebody, but she's built for it. If anybody was going to be able to be really good at it, she would be really good at it. And so we decided to make the switch. And that came with a whole lot of stuff. We had to learn a new lift, which was difficult for sure. But when you squat jerk, you have to get accustomed to handling a lot more squat volume than you were previously. Like, I mean, if you think about it, you're tripling the amount of squatting that you're doing just in the amount of Olympic lifts that you're doing. Or not tripling, but adding 30%, right? Which is pretty tough. So we decided to go high volume with the squats and try that out. So we did a long 12-week volume cycle there of 5 by 10 week 1, 4 by 10 week 2, 3 by 10, 2 by 10. Next month we did 5 by 8, 4 by 8, 3 by 8, 2 by 8. Pretty straightforward. Like if you're on the high volume training program that we have, it's basically that for our squats. That's what we did. And then while we were at it, we were really focused on posterior chain strength and accessories. That was a big thing for us. We found it was a weakness. We spent a lot of time really pushing the squat for years. Ended up developing a little bit of a weakness in the posterior chain, so we're kind of shoring that up now, and I think it's gotten so much better. We spammed RDLs, did a lot of hamstring curls, did a lot of accessory work on the GHD, like GHD back extensions, and then posterior chain stuff for the upper body too, like dumbbell rows, that kind of stuff, and then also jumping, just plyometric exercises to help kind of work on some explosiveness and maintaining that. We found that to be a little bit of a weak point for her, and so that was really helpful. I think that it allowed us to be able to handle a lot more training now, which I don't think that we would have been able to do before. So that means that now we're able to train the snatch and the clean and jerk pretty heavy, about 3 times a week, like each of them 3 times a week, pretty heavy. So that's not something we could have done before. Before we were probably capped at about 2 times a week. And so I think all that volume really helped a ton with being able to handle more volume in the Olympic lifts. We go pretty heavy. Like we'll always keep a heavy single in the training, pretty much year round. It just works really well for her. I don't necessarily think that that needs to be something that everybody does, but it works really well for her. So we keep that in year round. And in that volume phase, we essentially used the volume fatigue from the strength work to be the auto regulator on what is going to cause her to hit or not hit certain weights on her Olympic lifts. Now that we're out of that volume phase, the auto regulation's a lot better. She's able to she's pushing top end weights multiple times a week, and it is really helping her get more consistent. And that's kind of been the theme recently. So we have been focused a lot on consistency with basically our attempt selection. So we're kind of really zeroing in on what we want our warm ups and attempts to be. And right now what we're doing is kind of this progression where on our heavy day where we're in person together, we'll work up to openers. And week 1, it was build up to your opener for 3 singles. Week 2, it's going to be same thing for 4 singles. Week 3, same thing for 5 singles. Rather than necessarily trying to push for top end max weights, we're trying to make sure that our floor is increased. Because really, we've just been finding that if we're not consistent with openers, then it caps our potential in competition. So we're really trying to make sure that we're getting super consistent with openers and just hammering those all the time. So that's kind of been what our main focus is there as far as our programming stuff. Let me cover some of the stuff that we did for squat jerks, because I think there's not really a lot of good advice out there on switching to the squat jerk. So when it comes to squat jerks, a few things. One, you just have to do them more often. There's so many little nuances and balance things that come up. Mobility is obviously a big factor, and that's not a huge factor for her, which is part of the reason we switched. But it is something that you have to keep in mind. Then you have to do jerks a lot. You just have to do them way more than if you were doing split jerks. So we did jerks 3 times a week. We separated them from cleans, where we did one lighter high volume squat jerk day, and that was just on the minute stuff. Was one way that we did it. We did it with waves. We did just straight sets, just a lot of higher volume work there, but rarely doing more than 2 reps at a time. I found that seems to work better for her. That's one day. The other day is a power jerk day. If anybody's switching to squat jerks, you need to get great at power jerks because they are very similar. And you want to make sure that you're not dive bombing to the bottom of the squat. You want to make sure that you're catching high and riding down. Like that does seem to really help. So we'll do a power jerk plus an overhead squat day, and then one heavier squat jerk, and we'll do those from the blocks. And be okay with missing lots of reps at first. Like it's okay. It's not an indicator of anything. It just means that we're learning a new movement, and we're learning that without the opportunity to learn like a beginner. We kind of have to learn with some of these moderate to heavy weights. So it's a trickier part, and over time the consistency has gotten way better for sure. There was a period of time there where it was like one specific weight would be just like, for whatever reason, the weight that would get missed all the time. And now that's not the case anymore. It's like we just hammer through it. Let's see, some accessory stuff for the squat jerk. I would say one, if you just can't do a SOTS press from the front rack with an empty barbell, you have no business doing squat jerks. That's the first thing I would say. So we've been doing a lot of SOTS presses, but back rack, front rack, both with jerk grip, not with snatch grip. just for anybody who's confused about that. And then we did mess around for a while with using bottom up overhead squats, where we set kind of the plates up on blocks and then try and stand up from the bottom of that. Because in a squat jerk, it's a lot of like big drive, catch. You spend a lot of time at the bottom making sure you're stable before you stand up. And so we wanted to kind of isolate that a little bit. And it was helpful, but it wasn't as helpful as I expected it to be. And it wasn't as helpful as she expected it to be either. So what we started doing is just scrapping that and doing a lot more pause overhead squats with jerk grip. And it just seems to be a lot more helpful. Yeah, okay, so I've said a lot here. Do you have any questions so far?
Yeah, I'm pretty interested about that transition from split jerk to squat jerk because
Yeah,
I mean, for most people, like you'd think that would like just tank their lifts.
yeah.
Like how much of a fall off did you see? I know you probably went through like a volume cycle. It's normal to see like fall off in the weights. How long was it before maybe she returned to like doing like either PRs in the clean and jerk or the similar weights to what she was hitting before?
Well, it was actually kind of interesting because what first happened was in the beginning she was basically hitting same weights, like almost immediately, and then after a little while, as we started to really dial in on the nuances and kind of focus more on the technique, and we're in that volume cycle, so the weights kind of inherently were lighter. It was a little bit harder during that period of time where those weights came back down, and then I would say over the last I think over the last 8 weeks or so, it's gotten a lot more consistent. So right off the bat, um, she was able to hit 90% right off the bat with a squat jerk on day one. So it was great, but it was whether or not we could do that on a regular basis. That was what was up in the air. Now it's a lot more on a regular basis. And then I think it was 6 months, maybe a little bit less, before she hit a PR with a squat jerk. Um,
Okay.
yeah, pretty solid. But you also got to remember, like at this time, she's also going from 39 to 40, so it kind of in that new age range a little bit as well. So it's a trickier thing there for sure.
And she's been lifting a long time, so to even like hit a PR, in 6 months or whatever it might be, right? Like
Yeah,
that's not too bad, right? Like
yeah, for sure.
I'm even at the point where I'm like, hey, if I hit a clean and jerk PR like every 6 months, like okay, this is a pretty big win. But
For sure.
so I mean that makes sense. It seems like it's working really well. Um, about like approaching the competition, are you guys going to change anything? You think about your programming approach to what you're doing with squad jerk? I know you kind of spoke a lot on what you had been doing. Is there a way you think you're going to make it more specific? I know you're already doing total days, like you said, like
Hmm.
up to even 3 days a week. So,
Yeah.
um, how are you progressing
Um,
into it?
yeah, we're basically approaching with we have one day that's just straight up heavy single build based on how you feel, and that works really well for her. Some other athletes, I'll maybe say like we're gonna do X percentage on this day, and then progress that percentage up every week. For her, we got to capitalize on the day. What feels great? If she feels great, she's absolutely going to go heavy for that day, and if she doesn't, then she'll still go heavy, but she's not going to hit those really heavy weights. So I like to let her auto regulate how heavy she's going based on how she feels. 'Cause that has worked really well for us. Um, so we have one day at the end of the week that is a total day, and that is essentially max out snatch, max out clean and jerk, and then we'll have focuses. So the last few months, it's been a heavy emphasis has been on the clean and jerk, and so we'll say like max out snatch, but if you miss snatch more than 2 times, then we move on to clean and jerk. Now it's a little bit more like we're much more consistent in the clean and jerk, so we may take some extra attempts on snatch, because that's one that has kind of started like we just needed to focus on heavier snatches now a little bit more, and her clean and jerks, as long as we can keep those at the level that they're at, it seems okay. And so the other really heavy days that we have one day that's on the minute and kind of heavy, and that is a little bit more to get it like set the tone for the week. It seems to really get her in the groove and like just knocking out reps over and over again, and it seems to be a good tone setter. And that's something I've been experimenting more with her, is like less of like a less of an approach of like what would be the scientifically best weightlifting program for somebody, and more so like what fits this person's mental like needs as an athlete, and letting that kind of take the reins a little bit more, as long as we're not, overdoing it, And then the other day is what we're doing now is openers. We're building up to openers with the exact warm up scheme that we want to use in competition, and we're going to hit it for 3 singles this week, 4 singles the next week, 5 singles the week after. And I like that approach. It seems to be working pretty well, as long as the day is a good day.
Yeah, that's super great practice. Yeah, I guess I could see it being a little troublesome if like maybe opener weight's not in the cards that day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I
And
know
if that's
we've
the case, then
yeah.
And if that's the case, then all we do is we just pull back and we say, okay, opener's not in the cards today, but is last warm up in the cards? And if last warm up's in the cards, we'll take that. And that's the kind of really nice thing about what we've done now, which is we've planned out what all of our warm ups and attempts are going to be. And so we've got on your A game day, and then we've got today's not an A game day, and all we do is we pull it back one warm up, and that's it.
It's perfect.
And so that's a super effective strategy that we found, and try not to get too hung up on if we have a plan and then that's not in the cards for the day. We'll just pull it back a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's great to hit the opener so many times. I mean, once you walk out there, you want to not even think about, miss it. Like it shouldn't even be a thought almost like that you would not make it. Like it's just so confident.
Exactly. And it's just like confidence. Confidence just comes from evidence. So if you're like, oh, I'm a little uncertain about this opener, I can be like, oh, well, you've done it 25 times in the last 6 weeks. Like, I think that you're going to be okay. Or we can look at like, you've attempted this 25 times and you have not missed it any of those times. So we're good, like that kind of thing. That's where I'm trying to like get more, build a little bit more proof, build a little bit more evidence that you can do what you want to do on the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been through like a lot of comps with Eunice, so you kind of have like a lot of like insight into how she, competes and where her mental's at and what she needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make me think because it's going to be fun going in with Skylar because, I've never competed with her before.
Yeah.
I don't really know where she sits at on some things. So it'll be
Yeah.
a fun trial and error time, and for hopefully maybe a longer coaching relationship in the future. Where we can dial in things a little more.
Yeah.
I think
Sure.
she's the kind of athlete that does thrive on like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, hey, like
Oh,
we're doing it this way.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, Eunice is such a fantastic competitor. Like, I don't know, she is the kind of person that if you're just like you need this to win. If you do this, you win. And she'll just do it. And that is a really nice skill to have. Skylar's actually a fantastic competitor as well. I really love having her in competition because she brings energy. Like, she's got the kind of energy where like she goes out for her first lift, and for some reason, like everybody in the crowd is already just like, I want this person to do well, and I don't even know who they are. Like she's got very magnetic energy in competition. It's awesome. Quick interruption of the video to tell you about the OlyStrong team. The OlyStrong team is my group coaching program designed to be affordable and effective. You'll get access to your choice of 3 or 5 days a week of proven programming, daily video feedback to improve your technique, and unlimited coach messaging to ask as many questions as you'd like, including the dumb ones. Most coaches charge hundreds per month in coaching fees, but I'm giving it to you guys for less than $30 a month. And you can try it for free for 7 days by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description below. All right, back to the video.
And I'm really excited too because I'm actually probably competing either the day before or 2 days before Skylar competes.
Yeah.
At a similar, it's running alongside, the Virus Finals or alongside the Masters World Champs. So I'm almost as excited for hers as I am for mine because I feel like she's going to crush it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like you said as well, bring home some medals. We were looking at like the world, the records that were in the, United Masters Weightlifting Federation, and I mean her numbers can crush those. So
The records?
the records, yeah. Now, if is there somebody else that's going to challenge her perhaps for those records? That's probably the bigger concern because this is a newer federation.
Right.
It's not the most competed federation among all Masters federations, and so
Yeah.
We're kind
But you
of,
know what? You know what you can do is you can always have former world record holder in your Instagram bio.
exactly. Even if it was for 1 minute before the next person came out
That's right.
and broke it after you.
Yeah, that's what
Um,
I'm on the long term taper for.
exactly. But yeah, so I'm really excited about that. I kind of, I don't know. Sometimes you can just tell with athletes, you're like, you're gonna be, you're gonna do really well.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure. Oh yeah.
and so
Uh,
like, I guess maybe I'll get into some of the technique stuff that I've been doing
yeah.
with her lately. Then, yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right, for sure. So, a big thing with Skylar was a lot of her technique and her lifts. So she's really, really freaking strong.
Hmm.
Like she has front squatted 300 pounds at around 190 body weight. So like she is an absolute unit.
Yeah.
Like she's very very strong.
Yeah.
Um, and so technique is a lot of the times perhaps what's holding her back more than her absolute strength. And so we've still been leaning into some of her squatting strength with our volume progression there. I know that's something you kind of like to do with Eunice as well, even though she is a very good squatter.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Eunice has
but
squatted 380 pounds.
yeah, absolutely insane. Um, and so a lot of the technical changes that we've been making are really important for how she's going to end up doing, how Skylar's going to end up doing at the Masters World Championships. And so snatch and clean, a lot of them are the similar issues. So I'll kind of cover those together. Higher hips in her start position. This was a big
Hmm.
one. She liked to kind of have the shoulders a little bit too far behind the bar, just hips are just a little too low. And so some things we implemented very early on was start position holds in a higher hip position and 1 inch pause lifts. So 1 inch pause clean, 1 inch pause snatch, getting her comfortable pushing off the floor into that position and giving her time to think about it.
Hmm.
She likes to rush things, so that's Skylar's big thing. She likes to rush through the movements, and she needs to slow down a lot of the time, especially in her setup. So we also moved to more of a static start on both the snatch and the clean, so that she wouldn't rush the steps she needs to get through.
Yeah.
And so a few other things in the snatch. Getting her chin down is a big thing. She would really have that kind of like internally rotated, like looking up kind of catch position in the snatch sometimes. And so we've been creating a lot better of a push up and
Hmm.
with the chin down. So we talked about making a double chin in the catch
Nice.
as being a cue, and that's one she's still working on. That we were kind of working on a lot of other stuff like start position before we started working on that. I always kind of, whenever I approach changing technique in an athlete, you gotta, hey, what's the most important thing? And usually it starts in start position, and if they're good there, then you move on to the next stuff. You move on to the next stuff, and you kind of go down the line throughout the lift.
Yeah.
Obviously, multiple things can be addressed at once, but I definitely wanted to go all in on start position for a little while with her. Stomping her feet is something we've worked on a little bit in the past too. She would get really quiet and polite with her feet. I told her to make some noise and let people know she's there. And then also in both the snatch and the clean, I think she had never really been coached that much on snatch or clean pulls because she was doing some wonky things, and we kind of went through many different iterations of what she was looking like during those. She would maybe pull the bar way too high. She would do sort of something that looked like a hybrid between a panda pull and a snatch high pull.
Mm.
So we kind of overhauled those things completely to the point where we got her holding, on the top of the toes at the top, having a nice long extension, and not driving the bar too high, being in control of it the whole time.
Mm.
So having those elbows on top of the bar, just like we want to feel in the full lift as well. So that's been real good for her. As far as the jerk, she did struggle with the jerk a little bit, and the first time I met Skylar was at our summer camp. So I was actually giving her some tips on the jerk, and I think I said something to her that really stuck with her when we were at that camp. Um, and I noticed I watched her doing clean and jerk. We were going heavy, and I'm like, you know how you have a setup routine for your snatch? You know how you approach it the same way every time, grab the bar the same way, pull yourself into the bar the same way. I'm like, I think you need to do that in jerk. You need to have a setup routine, like, and list it out. Like, okay, I take my breath, and then I push up into the bar a little bit with my shoulders, and then I, brace another time, and initiate the dip, like just walking through it step by step, and that kind of made a big difference in her consistency in jerks.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not tight and prepared and set up well, the jerk can kind of be a little more random. And then other than that, driving her back knee down, she likes to be really long and straight with her back leg. And so driving straight down with it and reaching
Yeah.
more with the front foot has been really important. She also would kind of look like, if you look at her back leg up through her the rest of her body, she would kind of look like a banana. It would be like one big long line, whereas we want it to be more stacked. So we've been working a lot on some of her catch positions. Her dip and drive is usually pretty good though. So I'm excited to see. We've implemented some drills like one called like the corner drill, or it's a jerk pull drill. So you put your back leg in the jerk up against a corner or up against a pull, and you essentially do a jerk there and try and maintain that quad touching the wall, the corner of the wall, or on a pull. And so that way you're literally driving the knee down.
Oh,
And if it's not touching that anymore, you know that you drove it way too far back. This is
interesting.
also this is also a really good one for people who like to throw their chest forward in the
Yeah.
jerk. Um, they're really shoving their chest forward to make the jerk instead of pushing down under it.
Yeah.
So we use that one as well as some footwork practice without the bar to kind of get her in the right spot there. Things have been looking really well. She actually competes this weekend at a local meet, so that'll be that'll have already happened by the time this episode comes out. But we're gonna see kind of how some of these technique changes look on the platform with some heavier weights. We maybe haven't tested out even what maybe like second or third attempt weight is probably even going to look like at this competition, because we've been just drowning in volume, right? And so I'm really excited to see what she can put together on sort of a max out day, even with very little specific prep for a max out at this point in the program. She wanted to sign up and just have fun with it though, and I'm all for that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited about the meet, and she's a great competitor, so I think it's going to be a good day no matter what.
Yeah.
Just having a day where you can kind of let loose a little bit on attempts would be probably pretty good. It's funny that you're talking about the start position holds in the drills, because that's exactly what Eunice and I were doing, like 5 months ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Was a lot of that. So we spent a lot of time working on start position, making sure that was consistent, and found that a lot of that came from just like feeling weak in the pull in general, and so trying to get out of that position as fast as possible because it doesn't feel strong, which means that we did a lot of deadlifts and a lot of pulls. So that was kind of how we addressed that on the strength front. But then on the technique side, we kind of did basically the same thing, like 5 second hold in your start position and then start the lift. Dynamic start, or start with a static start, and we can add that dynamic in a little bit later. She just needs that extra momentum. She's got so little time to create momentum in a pull. And then that's basically been the start position has been the focus on the snatch and the clean for a little while. Now we're kind of focused on an aggressive finish in the second pull, and being super aggressive there, and then staying connected with it through the turnover in the snatch. The clean, not really an issue. She's got such a fantastic clean. We don't even really focus on much there. Just stand it up. That's pretty much it. And this for her, like as long as she catches the bounce on the first try, that's great. Because years ago that was a big issue for her. She would just pull, pray, and then use her massive excess strength to get it up no matter what.
A quick interruption to the video to tell you about something we've been working on for a long time: the 10-week squat program. One of the reasons I've been able to make progress in my Olympic lifts so quickly is through my strength reserve. As an 88 kilo lifter, I've back squatted 230 kilos or over 500 pounds. While we don't compete in the squat, having an excess of squat strength allows me to get in more training in the Olympic lifts, as they don't fatigue me as much. And of course, if you can't squat a weight, you're never gonna be able to clean it. So if you feel like the squat is what's holding you back, be sure to use code LASTSETPOD, all uppercase, at checkout to get a 20% discount on your program today.
And then the rest of the time, like all of our focus has pretty much just been on the jerk and getting really dialed in with that. So I'll give you guys some pointers that we've found are really important here. One is elbow position. We needed to have the elbow super high. Now, that partially just because she's got a pretty tight front rack mobility. So every extra inch of front rack position really helps a lot. It also does a lot to get the bar further back over the midline and not be forward. And every inch of that bar is forward on a squat jerk is a higher likelihood that it's going to lead to a missed lift. So elbows up, super important. Um, Next thing is chin back in the start and then head through in the finish. And what that head through really did was it led to not missing because we would be locked. Bar would seem like it's forward, but it's actually in the right spot. But the body is completely straight up and down, and it has to get under to be supported over the spine, right? So that head through became really important. That was something that we only recently figured out to like made a big shift. So shout out to Greg Everett from Catalyst because she went to one of the camps and that was one of the pieces of advice that he gave her there. And the two are super important, right? The two work together in a lot of ways. So if the elbows aren't up, the bar is going to be forward and it's going to stay here, right? But also if you have the elbows up and it ends up being into a better drive position, but you don't get that head through, you're going to end up being way back on the heels in the catch with nothing to support it. So those are some of the big changes that we made in the jerk there. And then the final one is just making sure that we refocus on taking the time to brace and having a setup routine before the jerk to focus on bracing really hard because, guys, it always comes back down to those damn basics. Like, if you're not bracing, you're not getting leg drive. If you're not bracing, you're not going to be stable in the catch. So we got to make sure we're always doing the basics really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said too. It's kind of funny because Skylar's a similar way with the clean, like where
Yeah.
it's sort of can be an afterthought. Like she's not going to miss a clean at this
Yeah.
comp that we go to this weekend. If she
Yeah.
does, I don't know what do I do? I'll eat a 1 kilo plate if she misses a clean. There we go. That's how confident I am.
We got you on tape, too.
No, edit that one out. But yeah, like, and I think at the camp, so she maxed out her clean. It was either 235 or 240 that she
It was
cleaned, and I can't.
235.
It was 235,
Yeah.
and so she's.
I'm fairly certain. I could be wrong on that, I guess.
I think you're right, and I think she might have tried 240. I'm
Yeah.
not quite sure, but it's a good bit above what her jerk is, and so I'm very very curious to see like with these technical changes in the clean, like the higher start position,
Hmm.
what is she capable of in just a clean? Like that could be up there, I think. Like especially
She
with the 300-pound front squat, like
she truly has the potential to have like a 120 clean, like a 265-pound clean. Like I genuinely think so.
yeah. So like yeah, you might say that the clean would be around, 85% of your front squat. So if it was 85% even with her current or her old front squat max, it would be 255 would be the
Mhm.
estimation there. I think most people end up having a clean higher than 85%
Yeah.
of their front squat. A lot of people are around front squat triple weight, would be in the 90s, in the low 90s even. So that would
Hmm.
be crazy if she could even do that. Like I mean, low 90s on 300, it'd be like 270. What?
But
Maybe not in this prep. That might be later down the line when we don't have to worry about clean and jerk as uh,
as much.
focused on those.
Yeah.
So that could be cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to just see all the progress in the next, I think, 7 weeks or so, going into the Masters World Champs. It sounds like you guys are really well prepared, especially already working on openers and having those locked in. So me and Skylar are going to get on that soon. Start
Yeah.
locking in what her openers will eventually be.
Yeah. Yeah. For
We
sure.
actually just put clean and jerk together just a few weeks ago, um, right after we finished that volume progression I was talking about, and so
Hmm.
now it's time to push things a little more. It's
Dude,
getting
very exciting, and man, I'm so excited for Masters Worlds. It's great. I can't believe that we have all these athletes going to Masters Worlds, but it's in Daytona Beach and not Fiji. But we'll. I hear that they call Daytona the Fiji of Central Florida. So
yeah. That's what they call St. Louis, the Fiji of Central Missouri or
Yeah, that's
the
what they
Midwest.
call that. Yeah, Daytona, actually, horrible place. I really have to just air that out. I cannot stand Daytona. I think it's one of the worst places. I'm sorry if you live there, but you have to know that that's true. It is a place that should not have existed past the heyday of the 80s and 90s.
All right, here we go. We'll see. I've never been, so it'll be my first time.
Welcome to the Hot Takes podcast.
Yeah, that'll be our intro. That'll be our teaser reel that we do.
Perfect.
Like
Yeah, that's a good idea.
hitting on Daytona.
Sweet. All
All
right.
right,
We'll go ahead and wrap it there. Calvin, where can people find you?
at Calvin Lackey, 81 kg on everything.
And you guys can find me at Big Ben Strength on everything. Make sure to check out all of our programs and coaching linked down in the description below. And hey, if you're a master's athlete out there that listen to this whole thing and you're interested in getting into weightlifting or something like that, you got questions about how we're doing this, feel free to leave us a comment below. We'll get back to you for sure.
Or if you've competed in USA weightlifting in about the past year and you are above the age of 30, I believe there's still time. There's still time to register for the Masters World Champs if you're in Florida. So hit us up if you want some coaching there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye. If you found this video helpful, then make sure to check out this video here or this episode of the Last Set Best Set podcast.